We are getting so close to getting the flooded Corvair back on the road. Hey friends, welcome back to Auto Anatomy. My name is Sean. Today we're working on part 3 of the 4 things that we need to do in order to get the flooded Corvair back on the road again. In the previous videos, you've seen us rebuild the engine with a nitrided crank, Glyptal the block, do a lot of other modifications to it. That part is done. In the last video, and I'll put a link up here, you saw us go through the differential, putting in a 4-spider carrier as well as a posi assembly. In this video, we're going to go through the 65 model 4-speed transmission. Now, in reality, the transmission probably doesn't need much. Most of these things are pretty solid. You know, just the synchros, or I think they're called blocker rings on these, probably are worn over years of use. But it's dirty, it needs to be gone through again, and we'll check out all the bearings just to make sure everything is right, so that when we put everything back in the car again, it is a good, solid, quiet transmission. So if you like seeing classic cars get brought back to life, take just a second and hit that subscribe button and click on the bell for notifications. It's an absolutely free way to help support our channel. If you do want to help support us monetarily, we do have channel memberships available for as little as 99 cents a month, and that gives you early access to videos and behind-the-scenes photos, things like that that you don't ever see on the main channel. But you do not have to be a member in order to get any of the great content that we have here on the flooded Corvair. So let's dive into getting the transmission disassembled and see exactly what we're going to need to put this thing back together again. Just like we did with the differential, I just went ahead and whipped up a quick little stand to help support this thing, hold it solid, make sure that it's not going to move while we're disassembling, putting in new bearings, any of that kind of stuff. So let's get started on the disassembly. I've got my factory shop manual here, and it says the first thing to do is remove the 6 bolts that are on the front cover and the 8 bolts on the side cover, and then remove both covers from the transmission. Now, I'm the guy that labels everything and bags everything up, and I think for something like this, it's really important to be detailed and to be methodical about it, because transmissions really aren't that difficult. Most parts on cars really aren't that difficult if you just take your time and are detailed about it. We can get our first look inside the transmission, and not going to be able to see much yet, but so far I don't see anything that just jumps right out at me as being abnormal. It just looks like old oil. Next up, we're going to pull the 3-4 plug, detent, spring, and ball from the 3-4 detent channel. Spring. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the ball out with it on its edge here, so we may have to turn it sideways. I don't want to turn too much because it's still got some oil in it, so let me drain this first. Well, I don't have a magnet strong enough, but what I do have is a demagnetizer and a magnetizer, so I'm going to actually magnetize this this punch and see if it's going to be enough to get that ball out. Well, I have done everything that I can to try and get this ball out, and I suspected it's stainless, and that's why the magnet isn't working. But regardless, we're going to move on. I think once I pull this fork out here, then everything will come out and I'll be able to get the ball out. So it says the next step is to drive the roll pin from the 3 to 4, let's see, shift the 3 to 4 shift fork into 4th gear. So that should be, so that's 4th. Then drive the roll pin from the shift fork. So the roll pin is right here. There you can see it. So drive that roll pin out, and then we're going to pull this whole shaft out. Well, I was able to get the ball out of the 3 to 4 shift detent, and honestly, it was just stuck because it is magnetic. Next up is going to be the 1 to 2 shift detent, spring, and ball, which is right there. That's gross. I think we're gonna have the same issue on this one because there is so much just old grease down in here that I think that ball is just stuck. The ball actually just came out on its own, so yay. All right, next up, we're going to move the 1-2 shift fork into second gear all the way forward, then remove the roll pin securing it to the shaft with a pin punch. So right there is our roll pin that we're going to drive out of the 1-2 shift fork, and then we'll be able to take out the shift shaft. Now we're going to take out the shift forks. So here's the 3 to 4 shift fork and the 1 to 2 shift fork. With the forks out, next up is to remove the snap rings located in the clutch gear bore, which is this area, between the clutch gear and the bearing, and between the bearing and the case. So it's going to be this snap ring here and this snap ring here. And I don't have the right tool on me, but we're going to make this work. I've ordered the right pliers, but I was able to actually get that snap ring out with just some regular needle nose pliers. But I don't think I can pull this out yet, or at least I'm supposed to. So I think the next step is to remove the 2 rear bearing retainer snap rings, and then hopefully we should pull everything out this way. Next, we're going to drive out the roll pin from the reverse shifter head, and then we'll remove the shifter head and the shaft. Next up, we're going to drive out the reverse idler gear and the reverse shifter fork. And there's a little woodruff key that fell out right there. So just make sure that you know where that is. I ended up pulling a spring out of right there, so I'm just recording this so I don't forget it. Last thing to do here is to knock out the counter shaft, and it says to remove the counter gear, improvise a dummy shaft by cutting a 7-inch length of 9/16 roll stock. So I went to my McMaster car and got a piece of 9/16 cold roll steel, and we are going to drive out this main shaft, or this counter shaft right here, and this is going to hold all the bearings in place so we don't lose them. And it looks like it goes this way. And on each end, there is a thrust washer. So make sure that these do not get lost. And just like that, I think I've got the thing broken down as much as can be done. Now, it looks like I may be stuck at the hospital for the next few days due to the impending snowstorm there in the Carolinas. So I think it's about high time we drop this thing into a bucket of degreaser, because I'm going to be gone for a few days, and when I come back, I don't want to have to smell like 60-year-old differential oil anymore. So let's drop this thing in some degreaser, get it good and clean, and then we'll start the modifications. Well, that took a little bit longer than I was really expecting. I got stuck at the hospital for 4 days due to the snowstorm. So the transmission has been marinating in the degreaser for 4 days now. Who knows what we're going to see when we get in there. Hopefully we still have a transmission case. Oh, there's something heavy. Got the transmission case out of the degreaser and just hit it with a wire brush to knock off some of the scale. And we're going to give this the exact same treatment that we did the differential by knocking off some of the casting flash, smoothing off things so it's not doesn't have any sharp edges. Plus, maybe a little harder to see, but we're going to go down into some of the oil passages and just take away some of this casting flash, smooth this out. Again, is this necessary? Absolutely not. But, you know, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist in things like this. So let's get this thing cleaned up and then we can start painting it and assembly. With the case cleaned up, it's going to get one last modification before we start painting and assembly, and that's the same thing that we did to the differential, and that is putting in a drain plug. The factory provided a hole for us here, and that is opposite the end of the shifter. We just knocked out the little plug there, and we're going to drill and tap for a half NPT and put a pipe plug in it right there, and that way future oil changes are so much easier. Well, the transmission's all cleaned up, and just like with the differential, we're going to go ahead and paint the inside of the Glyptal. Again, does it need it? Absolutely not, but I've got it. I might as well do it, and I think it looks pretty. Man, there's all kinds of little nooks and crannies to try and get paint into. So this is tricky. Well, I think I have everything all painted up. This has taken like a couple of hours to get all the little nooks and crannies down there, but hopefully I haven't missed something. So we'll let that dry and then come back, pull all the plugs out, clean the case off, and get the outside painted. Once that dries, honestly, it's time to start reassembly. With the inside all painted, it's now time to paint the outside. And for that, we're going to use the same Seymour Cast Blast original cast iron gray finish that we used on the differential. And I think it laid down really well. Just like we did before, we're going to heat up the case, make sure it's nice and warm, and then lay down the paint on it in a few coats. And then once this is all dried, we can finally start assembly. So I don't know if y'all do this, but every time I finish off a can of paint, I always take the marble out to see what it is. And this time it was actually metal. Most of the time they're just like a clear or blue glass, but it's my first metal one. So definitely keeping this one. Well, let's get this transmission assembled. First thing, I'm gonna clean up the countershaft. Now, previously I had mentioned that in the manual it says to insert a 7-inch long piece of 9/16 rod. That is absolutely wrong because the rollers have fallen out. That is not big enough. We're gonna drop this in the ultrasonic tank, make sure it's nice and clean, and then get the countershaft rollers packed in Vaseline or something like that, and then get it back in the case. In the process of getting everything cleaned up, this is the countershaft that came out of the transmission. And right here, if it'll focus, you can see there's a wear area. Putting a caliper on it, it's about 2 to 3 thousandths lower than the rest of it. I'm not super happy about that, so I went ahead and knocked out the countershaft from the original transmission, and guess what? It's also worn in that exact same spot. And I think that's right where some of these bearings ride, because cleaned up all of the little roller bearings, and these over here are perfect. These over here have got wear on them. So what I think I'm gonna do is go ahead and see if I can find, there's 23 of these bearings that are worn. I'm gonna see if I can get 23 good bearings out of the other transmission, but I don't love this. So I may try and see if I can find another countershaft. I know they sell them new. I may end up having to just break down and order one, because this is one of those things where, would it probably be fine? Yeah, but I'm gonna know that it's not perfect, and honestly, y'all will know it's not perfect, and I'm not okay with that either. So I may end up just ordering up another countershaft. Let me know below what you think you would do in this situation. Man, this is crazy. It's like every other one is a good one. So one of the real blessings of having a 3D printer is the ability to make basically whatever tool you want. And after looking at the workshop manual and seeing that the 9/16 rod to hold all of the bearings in place was frankly the wrong size, just took a couple of measurements and whipped up my own little tool. Now this is printed out of carbon fiber reinforced PETG, which is way stronger than we actually need, but I'll include the STL file, or at least a link to it, in the description below. So if you're building an early model to 65 transmission, you can pick this up for free. Next up is a spacer. And repeat that again. Okay, halfway done. Let's flip it around, do the other side. All right, we're gonna just put in a temporary shaft, and this is the factory shaft I just ground down a little bit to fit in there. And this is just gonna hold it in place until we can get the new piece in place. But this will let me keep building the transmission while waiting on this shaft. All right, well, that worked perfectly. Now we just have to wait on the new countershaft to arrive. Well, it's been about a week since I've been able to touch the Corvair transmission, partly because I had to wait on the countershaft to arrive, and partly because I had to do a little work on my daily, and that was a nightmare. But it's done. The new countershaft has arrived. Let's get on with building the transmission. Well, hopefully the new countershaft will slide in as easily as the mock countershaft did. So we're going to use our 3D printed spacer here, get the countershaft back out, slide the new countershaft in, and cross our fingers that this works. Okay, countershaft is in. Let's move on. So with the countershaft installed, let's move on to working on the main shaft. We need to get it disassembled, replace the blocker rings, repack those clutch bearings in the back, and then go ahead and put it back in the case. All right, well, I think it's time we start assembly. So this is the third gear. Yeah, this is third gear. So second gear. First, second, third, and then fourth is on the end there, I think. Hold please. Yep, here's fourth gear. Okay, so we've got the synchros, and these should just drop right on. I am not replacing the spring, but I am replacing the little dogs that go in here, but we're just going to worry about assembly first. Alright, back to the press this back on. Now that the gear is pressed back on and everything is moving freely, we're going to start replacing the synchro assembly, and it starts with replacing these little dogs. Now these were the original ones, and they look okay, but they do have a little bit of wear. You can see they've lost some of the height here on these teeth and a little bit on the center here. So these are cheap. We're just going to replace all of them. To insert them on this hub assembly, you've got a gap here, and you can see down in the brass synchro itself, there's a gap where that lines up. That's where this is going to press down into, and it should be spring loaded. So if we did everything right, there should be a spring. Yep, it springs back. So we're going to put one on all three sides, then we can slide the selector onto the hub assembly. This is where having three hands would really be nice. There we go. Now that's slid all the way down on. All right, now the fun part, putting in all of these little rollers into here so that we can finally throw in the main shaft. Well, we've come time to the part that I have been avoiding for a while now, and that is packing the double roll of roller bearings into the clutch gear here. So we got 34 little needle bearings, and that'll go all the way on the inside, and then 38, which will go in here. So I'm just gonna pack this thing full of some Vaseline and pray that we don't drop any of these little bearings. Done. Let's get the top row packed in some Vaseline and pray that it goes as well as the first one did. Okay, got all the bearings in. Okay, now I can breathe. we finally come to the part where I'm a little nervous, and I think I now wish I had taken maybe a little bit better notes, but got the reverse shaft in there already. And looking at the manual here, I think I have the shift shafts laid out in the right order here. So here's the 1-2 shaft and shift fork. Here's a little pill that goes in here. The larger pill, the 3-4 shift shaft, ball spring, and the 3-4 plug. And if I'm thinking about this right, you put it in reverse, and there's a little pull, basically like a pill here that pushes up here on this, prevents the 1-2 shift shaft from spinning. This little pill pushes on this bigger pill, which engages here, which prevents the 3-4 shaft from moving. And it's kind of like your interlock. So it prevents you from shifting into any other gear while it's in reverse. Then when you take it out of reverse, this pill drops back to the center of this shift shaft, and it can spin and do whatever it needs to do without any problems. So I guess it just goes in and out. So I think it's high time we put some shift forks in this thing, and then we're getting really close to wrapping up the transmission. So it looks like you can't drop the 3-4 shift fork in place while the 1-2 shaft is in place. So we pull the shaft back, drop the fork in. Now we can push the 1-2 shaft back in. All right, shift forks are in. I guess it's time we knock in a couple of roll pins, and then, man, there's not much left. Well, if I've done everything right, I should have a shifting transmission. So can't put too much pressure on the input shaft here because I don't have the bearing retainer on the front side, but we should be in neutral now. Well, let's see, this thing's gonna spin this way, yeah. So neutral, 3, 4. So that should be first. Second. It's a little hard to shift with no shifter. Third. Yep. And fourth. All right, one last gear. Reverse. Ha ha ha. We have a working transmission. And just like that, the flooded Corvair transmission is absolutely done. I did go back and put some thread sealant on all of these because these screws do go inside to where oil is. I really want this to be one of those Corvairs that doesn't mark its territory, if you know what I mean. So I'm taking every effort I can to make sure this thing does not leak. But that's going to wrap up this video on the flooded Corvair. Coming up on the next video, all of this hard work, the days, the months, the weeks, the hours that have been spent putting this all together is coming to fruition. We are going to be taking and completely redoing under the hood here. This is getting primed, painted, body color, just like the Canadian cars, and, you know, in my opinion, the way that it should have been. So this is going to be all painted, mist blue, clear coated, nice and pretty. The engine is going in the car. The transmission is going in the car. The differential over there on my very messy workbench is going in the car. And we are finally going to put the flooded Corvair back on the road again. I want to say again a special thank you to our channel members who help support us monetarily, but also to every single one of you for watching these, sharing these videos. You are the reason that we're able to keep doing this. Take care of yourselves. God bless, and we will see you very soon.